Biggest dude on the yard. And he was a weenie. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Apparently you guys want me to do more prison content. And so here's a story. Something I thought about during the live. We just ended a live. Gunner and I just ended a live a minute ago. And I want to talk about this cat. I mentioned him before, but I don't remember if I talked about how it all ended up, or at least what he tried to do. So let's start from the beginning. There was this dude. He was in C-section upper tier in 4 building on B Yard. And for those that came later and you know are gonna want to comment, there was no program building prior to the riot. After the riot, 4 building on B facility became like a workers block or something like that. There was no such thing back then. Okay. So this dude lived in C-section upper in 4 block, and he was humongous. It was a black dude. Now, Raza are gonna pay attention to who is potentially a physical threat, no matter what ethnicity, faction, whatever. Okay. This individual was so big that the blue CDC jackets that they had in Pelican Bay, they had to cut, they had to use 3 of them, cut up 3 of them to make one to fit him. And I think, if I remember right, they even made a trench coat for him out of that. Anybody that's been to Pelican Bay knows. In your fish kit, because it rains so much up there, you would be issued a raincoat. He was too big for a raincoat. So I think, if I remember right, they cut up 3 of the blue jackets and made it a trench coat for him. And he was the only one that had it. But that's how enormous this guy was. And I'm not saying he was a fat dude. He was just very, very tall, very, very wide. He was a huge human being. Well, he was given a cellie. And his cellie looked like he was 16. I don't know how old he was. At the time, there was, I know for the Raza from Southern California, there was 2 homies that were 17 years old on the yard, little guys. So I don't know if this guy was 17 years old. I don't know, but he looked like he was 15, 16 years old. Little bitty dude. And they put him in the cell with that giant monster, okay? Huge. I mean, I can't even, he was a humongous individual. And not long after that, we figured out that the big dude basically turned out the little dude. And we were kind of like, damn, almost like this youngster, nobody's gonna step up for him. Like, as far as like, I don't know what he was probably a non-affiliate or something like that, because nobody stepped up for him. But we were just like damn, because in California, you really don't see people get their manhood took like that, right? I'm trying to be careful with the words I use. And this dude, the humongous dude, was from the Bay Area. I want to say he was from Oakland, but I'm not sure. But he was from the Bay Area. And the little guy, we don't know where he was from, man. But the Raza was very upset. A lot of us were very upset by the fact that he was on that yard doing that to one of his own. And so most of the time when you're on a yard like that, if you're a Raza and you need something ran, you're going to call another Raza or a white or another. You weren't going to call the blacks. And the blacks normally weren't going to call any Southerners to do a run for him, right? This dude was different. He was apparently, allegedly, he was a super duper baller. Had ridiculous money on the streets. And so he felt he was above everybody and everything. Okay. So he would be willing to ask anybody. If he needed something ran, he was going to ask anybody, whoever was closest to his cell door. But once we realized what he was doing to his cellie, Raza would just ignore him. He'd be like, hey, SA, and they just walk right past his cell. Now, during the time that this happened, this was during the time where the Raza were on standby. The whites and blacks were having their issues. Okay. And this big black dude was doing that during that time. So when you're on lockdown, there's no blacks to run for you. And the Raza knew we were going to be getting off. Whenever their issue was done, we were going to be getting off. Because I believe by that point, Monster was gone. And no, it was not Monster Cody, the guy that the whole riot was over. And so every chance we got, the Raza from Southern California, I mean, I should just say the Raza, because at the time, by then, there was only Southerners and Paisas on the yard. There was no Bulldogs, no Northerners on either A or B facility. They were only in C and D, which is a shoe. So the Raza knew to volunteer to be the tier tenders. Every day, come out and be strapped. Because when the word to go is uttered, hey, go, we're going, right? And so, like I was saying, you know, Vatos would be fucking sweeping the tier, and they would make it a point to, when they were sweeping the tier, like bang the broom into his door, bam. And normally, homies would be like, hey, homies, don't do that. Don't instigate no shit. But because of what he was doing for his cellie, a lot of people felt like, fuck that guy. Fuck him and his feelings. If he don't like it, oh well. And as I said, we were already on standby to go to war. So when it came time to, okay, we're going to really, this is happening. The blacks and the whites were on lockdown. The Southerners, the Paisas, and the others, the natives, were all getting yard. And we would go out to yard together. And when you're in prison, you have the dudes that you're the coolest with, right? The homies that you kick it with the most. And excuse me. And that's what you're gonna get at. And you're gonna, you know, when you're gonna go to war, you have your own crew, and your crew is gonna get together and talk about it. Hey, Holmes, who you want to whack? Holmes, which group do you want to whack? And then when you come to a conclusion, your crew, 5, 6 dudes, 3 dudes, whatever your crew size is, you're gonna go to other homies. Hey, Holmes, so where you Vatos plan on hitting, eh? And they're gonna say, we're gonna hit them, Holmes. Or, you know what? we're gonna hit them, but I'm really targeting this Vato right here, Holmes. You know, supposedly he's somebody, so that's my target. Okay. Well, this is one of those situations where my crew, we talked about it, and it was immediately, we had a consensus. We wanted the baller out of the Bay Area. For what he was doing to his cellie, another young black man, but he looked like a kid, man. We were like, hey, we're knocking him down. We're going to try to kill this motherfucker for this shit. We went to another crew. Hey, what's up, homie? Who you Vatos plan on getting? We're like, they were like, hey, well, the homies want to get these dudes. But our main focus is that big ass dude. And we're like, oh, nah, homie, we're going to get him. And every group we spoke with was like, hey, we want to get that Vato for what he's doing. And so he became target number 1. He was the trophy of the yard. It wasn't because he had a reputation for putting in work. He actually used to complain that he didn't want to go out when it was the way they were running yard. They were running yard every single day between the whites and blacks. They ran yard every single day, and every single day somebody got whacked. Okay. And he was like, man, I don't even want to go out there, man. I don't have no problem with no whites, this and this and that. I'm a dope dealer. And so there was nothing about him other than his physical size the enormity of this human being. There was nothing else that was like a reason to target this cat, because we saw the coward in him just by what he was saying, right? But the fact that he was that cowardly and was allowed to do that to that young man in his cell, everybody wanted him. So February 22nd rolls around, and it's known to those that need to know, which was quite a few of us. We're going to war tomorrow. Tomorrow, first yard, which would be February 23rd. We're going to yard tomorrow. So, you know, as we always do when it's going to be yard recall, when they say equipment recall, Vatos will go to the gate in the middle of the yard and, you know, send their respects to the homies on the other side of the fence. And, you know, you would stick 2 fingers through the fence. That's a handshake, you know. And there was a lot of, hey, homie, be trucha tomorrow. Be safe. Get your feria, but use your head. There was a lot of, tomorrow is a good day to die, which is something that comes from our ancestors, right? It's just something that had to do with something in our past. But everybody, for the most part, knew, you know, hey, we don't know who's going to survive tomorrow. And it's never, and no matter what group it is, you're never worried about your rival. That's going to be what it's going to be. You always know it's the guys in the tower. You don't know who they're going to shoot. You don't know where they're going to shoot them. But you know they're going to be shooting, right? So everybody was like, all right, homies. And the homies that were on you know, 5, 6, 7, and 8, they were like, hey, get that motherfucker. Those of us on 3 and 4 that had access to him and action at him, were like, hey, Holmes, whatever we do, we got to get that out the way. And, you know, there was a plan. There was a plan conjured up I had heard about. It was allegedly a plan that was going to be able to corner every black shot caller. And had that plan been stuck to, maybe Sharky would still be alive. Might have been someone else that got killed. But it definitely would have been a different riot. It would have been uglier than it was. It would have been uglier than it was. Because the trap that was formulated was pretty, it was going to be pretty ugly. However, there was a specific individual that decided that he wanted to kick it off. And if you go back and you watch the riot of 2000, Pelican Bay riot of 2000, you can see where the riot kicked off. There was one of the black shot callers was running laps. And as he came running along the side, you'll see him on the left-hand side of the screen. Over here, you'll see him running. And then you'll see a couple Mexican dudes jump off a table and jump on him. When they do that, you'll see the yard explode. But I'm telling you right now, everyone was caught flat-footed. Even the raza, and they're the ones that planned it. Nobody was in the position that they were supposed to be in because it wasn't the time that was specified. Hey, at this time, we're going to work our way here. Some of the homies are going to work their way that way. The rest of you stay in the middle, and we're going to push from the sides in the middle. And they really, really wanted to do a number on the leadership of the blacks because of the disrespect that Monster was allowed to do and the fact that nobody had dealt with it, right? So, with it becoming a clusterfuck and everybody just moving on whoever was closest to them, believe it or not, the number one target on the yard didn't even get touched. What happened was when everybody rushed who they rushed, and contrary to the, propaganda, the whites weren't involved in that. They all grouped up because they knew and they got down. What happened was the big dude, the baller from the Bay Area, dove into the pile of where the whites were and tried to hide amongst the whites. And with all the tear gas and everything going on, the whites all got up and moved and got back down, and he ran over to them and got in the middle of them again. He didn't try to assist anyone of his ethnicity. Now, as I said, he had a mentality that he was different than everyone. He was above everyone because he had so much money. But the biggest target on the yard. Now, had he been somebody with the reputation, there's no way he would have got away. But it was such a trip that when it was said and done, he didn't get touched. And when everybody went back to the cell, you have to remember the whites and blacks had got into it. So at that point, there was A1, A2, A3, A4. All of those buildings and B7. 5 units were designated ad sag. They were the whole, and then you had the SHU, C&D facility. When you have a riot situation like that, they're going to throw everybody back in the cell. But because it was Southerners and blacks, the administration picked, I believe it was 5 Southerners. And they housed them immediately in the SHU. And they put them in the pods, or at least in the buildings, with the legends that the administration felt they needed to communicate with, because there was one dude who had a leadership position on the yard. And he got shot in his ankle. And when they were putting him in the ambulance, he told the Juras, he told the cops, something along the lines of, it's 3 for 1. It's going to be 3 for 1. And he wasn't talking about him being shot. He was talking about Sharkey getting killed. And basically telling them, we're going to get 3 of you guys for the 1 you got. And it scared the shit out of the administration. It scared the COs. And so they picked 5 Southerners and they placed them back there in the SHU to try to explain to them what happened and whatever. Everyone else went right back to their cells. And those of you who have never been in prison or been on a yard that's at war, when a yard goes to war, the best thing to be a part of is the first wave. Get out there, get your money, get sent to the hole. You can relax for the most part. Then you're on your way to the SHU. Everything's cool. But when you get sent back to your cell, you are strapped up. You have your knife on you 24/7, out, ready to go. Your neighbors have theirs out, and your neighbors on both sides of you might be the faction that you're at war with. You will hear lockers being cut, desks being cut. You will hear steel being sharpened. It is an extremely stressful environment, right? So, as I said, everyone was sent back to their cell except for those 5. And the big dude, the baller from the Bay Area, approached a friend of mine that we were in Hawaii together from Body Van Nuys. He approached him, and I know this because the homie immediately got at me, sent me a kite. He approached him and he said, how much money is it going to cost for this to be over right now today? So the homie gets at me and he tells me, look, this is what this vato said. And he said, we don't have the authority to end this, but look at what he was doing with Sally. Why don't we just tell him 100 racks and we just burn them? And it was never a thought in my mind. Because your word should always mean something, man. Even at a time of war. And so I told him, fuck him and his money. Tell him that. Fuck you and your money. And that was the message that was given to him. It's a trip because in the live today, somebody asked me, hey, what is the shadiest shit you ever did for money? That would have been it if I would have done it for that. But to me, money is to pay the bills and to feel some physical comfort. But money doesn't make a man, and it doesn't feed your soul. Before I go, that baller from the Bay Area was so disrespectful. On the tier, once he saw he wasn't going to be able to pay his way out, he was disrespectful on the tier. South soldiering. Even to the other blacks. I remember because he was South soldiering, some of the brothers on the tier told him, hey man, why don't you save that for whenever we get out? All that shit you're talking, just handle that when you get, like, basically saying like, hey, even though we're beefing with these Mexicans, we don't need to talk shit, man. We're all going to run into each other. The doors will pop open sooner or later. And I remember at one point him telling them, all you broke ass from LA, he said he could send all of them a full canteen draw for a year and buy all of them a TV and not even put a dent in his money. And he was calling them all broke. So he had all the raza really wanting to get to him. Now he's got all the LA blacks wanting to get to him. And while I was there, I was only there, let's see, February. I was there 4 months before they put me in Ad Save. And in those 4 months, the dude was never touched. I don't know if he ever was. I would assume the blacks from LA would have got him. Because he didn't have any friends. All he had was his money that he couldn't touch. He could go to canteen. He had people handling his money for him, but your money on the streets don't mean nothing in prison. Anyways, that's my video for today, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out of here.